Hello folks, this is Tony Boccaccio, bringing you once again fascinating stories from the Amazon. Today I'd like to talk about the time I was in Altamira. Altamira is a small town. Well, today it's quite large, but 40 years ago when I was there in 72, it's on the Tapajós River, it's on the Xingu River, and which is a major tributary which goes south from the Amazon River, about halfway between Manaus and the mouth of the Amazon River. In 72 there might have been, I'm guessing, 4,000 or 5,000 people there. Today there's 370,000 or more. But I remember I was walking around making photographs, and I decided that I would photograph a cemetery. I found a cemetery filled with all kinds of interesting graves with things written on the crosses and so on and so forth that I found very interesting. So I went in there to make photographs, and while I was there I saw a crowd coming down carrying a casket. So I went up there, and the first person I met was a man, and I asked him, I said, "Desculpe, mas quem morreu?" I said, "Excuse me, but can you tell me who passed away?" And he said, "My brother." Well, I felt a little bit embarrassed, and I think he saw that, because he said to me, "Não esquenta a cabeça, não preocupe, porque aqui na Amazonas a morte é muito mais comum do que a vida." Which translated is, he said, "Don't worry about it, that's okay," he said, because here in the Amazon, death is more common than life. I was quite impressed with that, and decided that I would begin thinking about that. Well, he saw I had a camera, so he said, "If you want to take photographs, you can." So I went to the grave site, which was right next to a wall, a stone wall that had a iron kind of grating or gate going up. I got on the other side of the grating because the grave was so close to the wall, and I shot through the grating. And as I did, I just photographed. They had the hole there, and the the casket. It was painted purple, and the widow was there, and the family, and everybody, and the padre was there. And suddenly somebody said, "Okay, come on, let's go. We only have 20 minutes." So they started. Everyone made the sign of the cross. The padre started to speak, said some prayers. And it came time to put the casket into the hole. So these guys put 6 guys put 3 ropes underneath of it, picked it up, put it over the top of the hole, and started to lower it into the hole. It got halfway down, and it went like this and got stuck at a 45-degree angle. They couldn't budge it. Well, I can't begin to tell you what happened at that point, because people got very upset. And some guy started screaming, "Who dug this hole? Where's the guy who dug this hole? It's too small. This is crazy. Get this guy down here right away." So they went looking for the grave digger, and as they did, they decided that they would pull the casket out of the hole. Well, it was 45-degree angle, kind of on its side, stuck inside. They couldn't get it out. So finally, one guy, he said, "I'll organize this," and he got 6 guys. He got 6 guys. And 2 others behind, holding onto the rope. And he said, "Okay, on 3, everyone pulling really hard." So on 3, they went 1, 2, 3. Oh, and they pulled like this. Well, that casket flew out of the grave, went right into the air, went off to the side, hit the ground, rolled over, and the top opened up like this. And there inside was Uncle, whoever his name was, dressed in his Sunday best. Well, no one paid attention. It was over there. And they got the grave digger over here. He was a little tiny guy, and skinny and old. And they started screaming, "What's wrong with you? This is too small. Get back in there and start digging." Well, this guy jumps into the grave. He starts digging like crazy, and they're all saying, "Hurry up, we only got 10 minutes. We only have 10 minutes. I wondered why they only had 10 minutes. But, this is Brazil, and there's certain customs you have to follow. And I guess you have to get buried in 20 minutes. I don't know. Maybe the body rots or something. So, as they're doing this, the children were running around the casket, and they saw that it was open. They were pointing at, Uncle whoever his name was. And suddenly they gathered flowers from the graveyard, and they started throwing flowers inside the open casket. Well, one of the mothers saw it. She ran over there and she said, "You can't do this." And she shooed them away, and she was about to close the casket. And all of a sudden, this little boy with a small plant in his hands, he didn't know the difference between a flower and a plant. He ripped some plant out. He threw it in the casket at the last second, and she slammed it shut. And she shooed the children away, and they went on with the burial. The priest made the sign of the cross. Everyone made their prayers. They threw dirt on top of the casket. And they looked at the watch. They said, hurry up, we only got 4 minutes. And Vem cá. Anyways, so they finished saying their prayers, threw the dirt on it, and everyone all of a sudden said, okay, we only have 2 minutes left, let's go, and they all ran out. So there was one guy left, which is the gravedigger. Vem cá. I think they're afraid of my hat. Most people are. Vem cá. Pode comer. Pode. Vem cá. Gostou, huh? And I hope that got into the camera. So going back, so they started throwing dirt on the casket, and all of a sudden the man said, 1 minute, and they all kind of gathered together and rushed out of the graveyard and disappeared down the road, the dirt road. Only the gravedigger and I and the defunto, the dead guy, was left. So I turned to the gravedigger. I said, why were they in such a rush? Why only 20 minutes to get the guy buried? He said, well, the problem is the soccer game starts at 11 o'clock in the morning and starts in 30 seconds, actually. And they didn't want to miss the kickoff. So I thought to myself, you know, in the Amazon, death is not more common than life. Soccer is. So at that point I left. And I came back 20 years later, I came back. So 20 years later, I went back. I went back to that graveyard looking for that grave. But by this time there must have been 10,000 graves in there, and I couldn't find any of them. I couldn't find my grave. So I was about to leave when all of a sudden this gravedigger came down, young man, and he asked me if he could help me, and I told him I was looking for a grave. He asked me the name, and I said, I don't know the name. He said, well, if you don't know the name, we can't help you because, you know, there's 10,000 graves here. So I said, okay, and I decided to tell him the story, and I told him the whole story I just told you. Well, toward the end of the story, this kid started to think, and he thought to himself, he said to me, you know, I think I know where that grave is. Come with me. So he took me across and around, and I don't know, over toward the wall, and near an entranceway off to the right. And sure enough, we turn the corner between graves. We come around, and right there, I'm like against the that wall with the iron gates like this, and right there, where I was 20 years earlier, is the grave. And this time, there's this beautiful plant, which is growing out of the grave. It's about that high, about that wide, maybe about like this, and it was brilliant, beautiful, brilliant yellow. I said, my God, look at this, it's a beautiful yellow plant. He said, that's right. And during the last 15 years, this plant started to grow out of this grave, and nobody knew why, but every year at Easter time, it blooms beautiful yellow. We call this the Easter grave. And so I thanked him, and I was about to leave when I said to him, you know, 20 years ago when I was here, the brother of the man who was buried told me that na Amazonas, a morte é muito mais comum que a vida. In the Amazon, death is more common than life. But I think he was wrong. I think that in the Amazon, looking at this grave, life is more common than death. Folks, thank you for joining me today. My story about Altamira and the grave. And please come back again because I've got a lot more stories to tell you. Thank you. Hasta luego.